Hi, everyone. It's great to be back here and fantastic to have Nora with us remotely. Wish you were in the room, Nora. I don't know if you can see us. Can you?
Yeah, I can see you.
She can see us.
Now.
Okay.
I could see you before. But
It's really great to be here with you and to be talking about your work. It's a real privilege and delight. I think we're going to see the film first, and then we'll do more like introductions and things like that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Great, because I think we can go straight to the film. Yeah.
At this critical moment in time, we think that it is important to radically redefine the role of the arts and museums. Nothing is more powerful than the arts. Every human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Thus, we must rethink the role of museums to match this new role and ambition. Here we seek two goals: doing justice to the past and to shape the future. We will make our institutions places for this needed change and provide historical lessons, but also hack into futuristic scenarios based on these learnings and available technology. To design new tools and technologies, these have to be imagined first.
Is there a better place to ignite imagination than in institutions that are full of ideas, stories, artifacts and reflections? In sum, our museum will become a time machine. We can go back to understand history and its hegemonic roads leading to our current challenges and multipolar world. And we can also glimpse into the future, shaping options and mitigating risk.
Nearly every conversation today about the restitution of cultural property to Africa already happened 40 years ago. Nearly every relevant film had already been made and nearly every demand had already been formulated.
Today, I want to apologize and reconcile with the activists who I denounced as populist and even of being anti-Semitic for their decolonial interventions. I want to apologize for saying that they were lacking the basic understanding of the complexity of provenance research and of being ignorant of the diversity of acquisition histories. We are seeing now what crimes are unfolding in Abu Dhabi and the Louvre. I was the defender of looters, I was the populist.
The methods by which the African continent and many others have been stolen have been contemptible and dishonest beyond expression. Lying treaties, rivers of rum, murder, assassination, mutilation, rape, and torture have marked the progress of Englishmen, German, Frenchmen, and Belgian on the Dark Continent. The only way in which the world has been able to endure the horrible tale is by deliberately stopping its ears and changing the subject of conversation while the deviltry went on. In Europe, it was also a struggle between foreign and interior policy, between diplomacy and museums, between information and disinformation.
I am not a ghost, but I come to you in your dreams. Now it's the time of the voiceless of the world and their objects. It's the time when plunder starts speaking for itself. We healed. We restored. Our broken hearts and shards. We fight. We will take back our dead and their objects into our lands. Some masks are coming off. Death masks are put on. Other masks are reanimated. We are dancing again. We are truth-speaking again. As techno-heritage advances, the Imperial Museum becomes a tomb. Museum storages become caves. And we will circulate in an endless stream of collective memory. On your networks, chips and screens.
yeah, no.
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
Just to say that I'm not looking up at the screen, I'm looking at you in the mirror at the back. So I don't know, I'm not making proper eye contact with you, I think, which is always sort of weird sometimes in these settings of hybrid, but I hope it's okay. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your work with us. And yeah, I'm really happy that we can meet and talk again. It's been a long time since we chatted in Berlin. And I'm thank you very much to the Paul Mellon Centre for also hosting us as part of this. So I have a lot of questions, and I'm sure folks in the room do as well. So I'd like to make sure there's a chance for us to speak, but also to open it up to the community here. Maybe I can start by asking a little bit about, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your practice and where you are now?
Yes. Hi. I wish I could be at your place right now, but I couldn't travel because I have two small kids, twins, 3 years and 3 years, and so it's really difficult for me these days. So thanks for having me anyways. Next time I'm coming, and now I'm in the countryside, close to Berlin. So close to one center of my critiques from this video, and I just resaw the video, and yeah, I always keep forgetting some parts of the text because I made the piece, I released it, I think, for 1.5 years ago. And I don't only work with AI like many maybe other practitioners from the field, but since maybe 2018 I started engaging with this more. And the past years, I think I've intensified this, and this is one of the projects. But I think my field of concern is more the so-called, I call it cultural data, let's say, which is the data of our human past, mostly so far, in my case at least. So my speculative material I work with a lot is actually archaeological artifacts. Some very important part of my practice is also, I guess, this kind of interventions that are a classical form of institutional critique that combines also this, crazy technology with some form of hacking. But I think we will talk about this in a moment when we talk about this piece. But I'm also a trained political scientist, and maybe that explains why I always, in most of my works, I include a meta level of post-colonial theory, but even broader than this at some level. Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
great.
So far.
Thank you. I remember seeing, before this work, I think the piece called Babylonian Heritage?
Babylonian Vision.
Babylonian Vision, right, that's it. In which I first saw you using GANs, generative adversarial network technology, to kind of reimagine or speculate on a past and sort of project the journey of past artifacts into the present moment. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about your use of different kinds of what we call AI technologies, AI tools now as an artist, and these kinds of tools in the hands of artists and in terms of your art practice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, unfortunately, I couldn't join today, the full day, or yesterday even, but I heard a little bit from the talk before, and I think you got all the critique covered already of AI. So I kind of will leave this aside, but I mean, I'm aware of all this problems, and it's the tools of the masters and all the stuff that comes with this, for sure. But I still don't want to leave it only in the hands of the masters. And my personal goal for all of my pieces is to find at least a really small spot for some form of emancipatory potential to activate this, and to show how we can differently use these technologies, or even build these technologies. For my first artwork was actually a chatbot in 2018, before we used chatbots in the general public, before we had this kind of interface well known, and it was a chatbot that was built in from an open source community, for example. So I would say, compared to now, it had a better foundation to start with. It was not a commercial model and nothing like this. So so building things from scratch, I try this also with the generative adversarial networks, and partly failed because it's really time consuming, and sometimes it doesn't really matter for the conceptual statement to do it, I guess, but for the ethical point, it's like very important, like what models you choose and what tools. Yeah, so the Babylonian vision, it's a reference to computer vision, of course, was just a small thing, I think, that kind of took literally my approach towards AI, that I think it's a very past-oriented technology, because as soon as you train a network, the data is more or less from the past. There are very few like live or trained models, but it always speaks about the future. So I just thought in this project, because I'm half Iraqi, I wanted to engage with this heritage that is usually very disconnected ideologically from what is today's Iraq. And I was really tired of speaking about war coming from this region and destruction, but I actually wanted to do something more encouraging or empowering for me personally and my people there. Then I kind of created this new, what I called then techno heritage. GANs that basically learn the visual language of a whole era, and like Sumerian, Mesopotamian, Assyrian, and recreate new artifacts based on this knowledge of a time. Yeah. And visually, I think to put together visual worlds in that sense, that works really well with GANs. It's not the super intelligent technology, but it understands patterns. Doesn't matter actually if the object is a textile or jewelry or relief or whatever object. So that was my motivation.
Thank you.
Or why I did this.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I'm kind of struck by with GANs in particular, as you say, but also in, sorry, I need to get my phone back on. The point is not to often create something seamless or to often deceive, as we see with a lot of deepfake technology, which is, you know, sort of built on earlier proto-GANs. And I kind of like that you're using something that's quite obviously not trying to deceive, but to kind of create doubt or to disrupt, even defame, as in the case of, or potentially. So thinking about this film, and could you tell us a little bit about the backstory of the film? Because I think people would be quite interested to know, as I learned earlier this week, and I didn't know how you came to make this film. So I think it would be interesting to hear about the process, because it is very wrapped up with the choice of particular tools and particular texts and what you want to do in that space to create particular narratives about the present and the future and the past. So please tell us about the movie the film we just saw.
Yeah, I think in the past decade or so, I've made quite a few projects that spoke about this topic of restitution, reparation, healing, collections, museums as spaces, and I've reflected a lot about it until the point that I thought, okay, actually, like in the video at one point, there's a reference. Another scholar actually said that everyone has said already everything to this point. And I personally had not just said things, but I also stole the data set, for example, of the Nefertiti bust in Berlin and put it on a public domain as like a digital performance or intervention into this ideology of like ownership of artifacts, and exhibited in Cairo. I thought I don't want to say anything about it anymore, and now maybe someone else has to do it. But then, and time didn't really, 10 years later, the rhetoric's changed, but substantially not so much has changed, as we all probably know. But then I was invited to an internal workshop of this infamous Humboldt Forum, it's Europe's, I like to call it, most expensive museum, because 400 million just to build it, and yeah, it's really interesting and crazy backstory for this museum too. And I would never want to setting a foot in this museum or talk to the people, but actually I was invited by a very, very nice scholar, and she told me at that point, Nora, we are not going on a platform to be exploited as this we are talking about restitution or so, but we actually have to stay in dialogue to see what's going on here in this fields. So I came, and then I saw the level of I would call it, the workshop was actually called Trauma and Art. And I don't think the people working in those museums are victims or traumatized at all, but they certainly have a big cognitive dissonance with them. And they don't know what to do, like who they are anymore. Like a custodian, their whole identity is now questioned by the public, basically. And I could also see that there is a problem that the leadership of those museums, it's very hierarchical, of course, in the public museums, at least in the big ones, is very conservative. So there is actually not so much space. The employees don't feel there is a lot of space to try other things out, or to even think otherwise. And then I thought, okay, well, actually, seeing this, I kind of want to do one last piece about it. And they asked me to commission me. And I thought, that's really funny, but I don't know. Do you know what I'm doing? What kind of art? You certainly cannot commission me, but if you like, you can buy a future piece of mine that's not done yet. And this is this piece now. So in the very tradition of institutional critique, and one of my favorite German artists, Hans Hake, I tried to make an impossible piece that they cannot exhibit. So this is a bit where that came from. But by the core, of course, what I felt like, they are basically, they are stealing identities from entire cultures. So how can I steal maybe their identity and try to reverse this, and not just critique them, because we have said it all exactly, but maybe lay out something like how a future museum could look like in a bit more constructive way, I guess, or productive. Yeah. And then I asked many other people, as you could see, because I don't think it's like me as an artist is necessarily the right person to. And I don't think that there's one person who has the answer how museums should go forward with their conception or deconstruct themselves, but there are many ways. So, and AI is a collective technology, as you know, so I think it fits really well that I asked many scholars that for decades also engaged in this debate, actually, or discourse even, yeah, to contribute text extra for this piece. And that was really nice. So I asked them, can you write something that is like a speech that we would like to hear from these directors? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think what I appreciate is that there's wit and there's the soul of the hacker, very much, or the spirit of the hacker that kind of animates this work, or the use of technology to do something else. So kind of approaching the technology as a tool and saying it can also be used for something like this. And I feel like there's a number of artists around us. Some of them have been here and are in this room who are kind of thinking about AI in those ways, or have been working with digital media and technology in those ways to something bigger and greater, not just kind of like the see how special this tool is in and of itself. And I think Wesley was gesturing to some of those people as well earlier. I am actually, can I just ask about time and when we do need to end? Because I want to... Yeah? Okay, great. I would actually... Yeah.
I mean, I also forgot to say that they actually never exhibited it. So they bought it and they didn't exhibit it. Until now, at least. Yeah.
Right. That is a very important piece, that they paid for it, but they can never show it now. Yes. That was the key detail. Okay. Okay, great. I would actually like to open it up a little bit to the audience and then maybe come back with some questions at the end, because I feel like people probably have a lot of questions about this piece. So I wonder if, yeah, Ella's got the mic, and if folks want to ask questions. I think there's a lady there.
Hi Nora, thanks for the talk. It's like a very direct question, but do you think that both museums and AI, LLMs, are inherent technologies of hoarding / pillaging, and also like epistemological limitations? And like I feel like it's quite poetic that you're criticizing one with the other, so could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah. Yes, they are. Both of them are much so, I think. And exactly, as you said, I try to say, to kind of defy one through the other at some point, and this is what I did in the past too. So I really try hard to, in all of the pieces, to also address, for example, here, this is a deep fake, obviously, and I'm stealing, for example, quite personal things from the directors, even their voices for some parts, and of course their faces, and nonetheless, I think, since it's a more collage and one part of it, and there's even like when I exhibit this work, there's always a full text where I can see who wrote exactly, for example, which statement, because of course I could have kind of generated, for example, the text, which some people do. But for me, it's very important actually not to do this fully in order to be able to meaningfully or authentically even discuss these topics. So I'm trying, I'm talking about the museum, but actually not, right? Because about the spaces that the people are proposing are maybe not even museums. It's more a metaphor. And then I use the technology, but I don't use it on all levels. I hope that answers a little bit the question. That's a very good question, exactly.
Thank you. I think there's one more in front.
Yeah, this is to kind of remind ourselves that we have an online audience as well. So this is a question from the Zoom chat. So Nora, in your view, how can artists from colonized countries begin to meaningfully reprogram the colonial narratives embedded in museums and AI? And what kinds of strategies or tactics are most viable from within their own situated conditions? Not an easy one.
Yeah. No, because there's of course not one answer, and already the question implies it's quite situated. But since these LLMs that are now really widespread, or the models behind them, are using so much data, and I really thought in the past years a lot about our cultural data, and this is maybe what you're also talking about, because this is the data kind of that is based on the narratives, or the narratives in the museums are based about on those. It's, I don't know, it's accessible and it's possible to at least to use the data now and to repurpose it probably somehow. And but on the other hand, maybe let me see I see the question on my chat too. So I think the strategy can be actually to kind of exploit exactly the exploitative behavior of the LLMs, to be able to even just see, for example, the masks you saw there, they are not random masks, but actually you could reproduce masks that are from southern Peru, from a certain era, only because the LLMs did scrape all museum databases, and they actually can do this, although in a very cartoonish way mostly. And so I think it's more, this kind of one gaze on this beautiful data that makes it visible, and not necessarily for the good. And the other way, I guess, is really also the beauty of not being seen and not being scraped. That one meaningful way of engaging here is maybe to talk more about the invisible and not to show it.
If I could just add to that as well, that I think there's sometimes this conversation we've been having over the last few hours about whether our critique, sort of what is the level of engagement with the tools themselves. And I think there's this sort of expectation sometimes that the restitution or the answer or the will come, the deliverance will come through the tool itself and by manipulating it in some way, and that's by making it better. I was at a workshop a few weeks ago, a computer science workshop called CVPR, Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition, and in a workshop called VLMs for All, Vision Language Models for All. And this is extremely well-meaning, really great computer scientists from academia and industry who want to automate culture, who want to make it possible that you are from Peru or from Indonesia or from India or from Iraq or from London, and the model must completely, perfectly respond to you. Now, of course, the motivations are different for Google that wants it to work for everyone everywhere. I think academic researchers definitely are thinking about the politics of not scraping data at scale, and kind of not violating copyright. So I think there are people who are quite seriously thinking about how to re-architect some of these practices themselves. But I was more struck by how, to sort of speak to this question about what could and should artists do within the machine itself to kind of make it better and improve it. And I think I was sitting there in that workshop at CVPR saying, well, actually you can't, because there is no one-to-one between this culture and this history and what you see now and how you feel about it now, and this belief that, oh, I must be perfectly represented by this machine, which was never intending to represent you. That's not really what it's engineered to do. So why do we expect that, and this sort of representational politics that I must be seen perfectly by the machine, I struggle with that a lot. So I think that would be my response as well, that sometimes, no, you're an artist from a colonized place. Maybe there is nothing ethical or right or correct to be able to do to resolve and solve things that have happened in the past, violences of the past, through that machine, because it's part of that logic, if that makes sense to the person online who asked the question. But I think there was somebody else folks in the room. Yeah, Shreya, please.
Sorry, not an online question. No. But Nora, I was really waiting for the punchline of the story. So did the museum, what did they do with the work? And also, where was it? Where did you sort of show it otherwise and so on? I'm really curious also about reception a little bit.
I think they put it in the toxic chamber somewhere with other great artworks, hopefully, for sure, actually, and maybe some human remains. So I'm in really good company, probably. So, but I premiered it actually at a really nice big digital art show in Kunstwerke in Berlin last year. It was called Poetics of Encryption. And since then, it's really traveled the world, and this is the most important for me, basically. So it's a bit of a side story, but I think it is really, since it was my motivation, or also, how I got the idea why I wanted to do it exactly this way, it's still important to tell the story sometimes.
Sorry, where did you say they stored it? I missed that.
No, I don't know where they stored it. In a toxic chamber with other artworks they're not showing. No, I don't know. It's just gone. Probably with other artworks.
That's what I thought I heard, that you said they put it in a toxic chamber with human remains.
Yeah, and other stuff that the museum doesn't want to talk about.
Right. And I guess the Humboldt Forum has a lot of things like that they've stolen and don't want to talk about. Right. Okay.
But I also have to really say I didn't deceive the museum or anything. I told them, guys, you will not make like the artwork, but they were saying, no, we really want to be self-critical, and we want to invite criticality, which is already really bad. But then I told them, okay, that's fine, but I can tell you won't like it, and you probably will never show it. And they still agreed to it. So maybe, to cut them some slack for this, but...
Right, that's on them. Anybody else in the room? Yeah, please.
Would you have had to search so hard for alternative voices from other academics? Because surely these museum directors have a long history of saying stupid things and putting their mouths into the colonial story and making it really clear what their tactics and politics were. And actually some of the live quotes or quotes of quotes in the media that they have repeatedly made are very interesting to analyze in themselves.
True. Maybe that should be part 2 then. Yes, you're right. That's true. All of those, these case 3 guys, but all the other directors, it's true for sure too. They're very good in rhetorics, but I just, didn't want to just show the stupidity, but actually want to make a proposal for a future that is possible, and that. Well, I still imagined having this art piece in those museums hanging, where the employees would pass by their directors and they will get the message from them, but then a completely different message from the real one. So I wanted to kind of enhance or magnify this cognitive dissonance they are living through. This is probably, why I decided to go this way. And also, I mean, the scholars I quoted, I think their work is so important, but then sometimes it's not heard loud enough, or yeah.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments, or in the room or online? You want to say something, I think. Yes.
I do, but I'm not quite sure if I'm gonna be able to kind of say it properly or articulate it properly. But I'm thinking a lot of these projects, or kind of the fact that they really wanted you to do this project, is about whitewashing. And I think the fact that the question that was asked, should we as artists participate in, kind of in the pain that we're all going through? Iraq, for example, they've looted so much of the museum stuff, and whether we should participate in creating work that actually allows the institution or museums to actually use that as a way of saying, look, we are really, being democratic, we are kind of, look, we're showing this. And this is the kind of, I think that's what the question was, what do we do as either diaspora artists or as artists who have had this history of being colonized, and as artists who look at other artifacts and making work, whether we should participate in the whole project, whether we should have that kind of visibility in that way, which I think you have that kind of dilemma already anyway, because you told them anyway. But, I think it's kind of quite important to break this.
Very important, actually. Yeah. And my past projects were really more about literally hacking the museum without I took the museum data in 2 cases for the Babylonian Vision, but also for the Nefertiti project, without the museum's consent, and super intentional. I did this, and of course I got criticized also for this too a lot. But I also got a lot of positive resonance, some from my communities, for example, in Iraq, for this Babylonian Vision project. So for me, this is like invited criticality. I would really never want to be exhibited in this museum. So this was just my way of doing this. I could have said no at all, but yeah, I really hope they will not exhibit it in the future, but I don't think so. I think it's impossible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I agree, there is no way to be this invited critical artist, and I never did this in the past. And I think it's very important, because we're also talking about media artists. The same is true for being working with as Facebook or Google art, blah, blah. Of course, it's tempting for many of us, and I don't want to judge if people really do it, and I get this, but yeah, it's a big decision to do it, and I would not do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that it is something that people have to think about, because it is hard to do this kind of work, and to, maybe that's another conversation, but maybe that's why many artists I know do PhDs also, because it's not just about how much data there is, and there's a lot of artistic research that relies on that, and but also there's a question of livelihoods, I think it's difficult to have a critical practice without patronage. I mean, that's how it's always kind of functioned, right? And everybody has to have their own kind of like journey through that. Do we have? Are we? We're at time. I think I just maybe want to ask you one last question about thinking about AI as a set of technologies, as a set of ideologies and imaginaries. What comes next for you? Do you think you're going to continue to work with GANs or other kinds of technologies like this, or sort of what's exciting, if at all, still in this space for you, whether it's about heritage or AI, the intersection of the two, or do you feel like you're moving to something else? What are you interested in working on next?
Yeah, I think I'm mostly interested, in the limitations of AI. And that means that the AI models can only see what we teach them. And it can never mirror our human experience. And I think this is a path that is now more interesting for me in the past years, and how we can maybe make this visible and material. So that wouldn't be an AI-based work probably. But I'm also now in the Max Planck Institute for Humans and Computers, and as a resident artist. And what I see there is it's just what happens now, how AI is rolled out, and it's everywhere, and how people are in the moment, of course, in the infancy of using it, and the media literacy is not really good. So the power is really high for the technology. I'm still, of course, interested in this, and would like to see a bit more work about, for example, how can I say this? The subjectivity in AI, because so far we have the universal godlike stupid models that are really not so intelligent, but they claim to be, and then we have only the user. But maybe, how to shift this whole situation. But I have many big questions right now, and so I think I'll stay with this field for some parts, for sure.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us from Berlin, and for sharing your work with us. I think this has been great, and great seeing you again. Thanks, Nora. Let's give her another hand.
Thanks for being here.
And I will hand it back.
We didn't put in closing remarks in the program because it feels like we don't really conclude with this question. We haven't got all the answers, and we are coming back with another edition of What is Research Now later in the year, potentially early next year. So stay tuned, but more than anything else, thank you for joining us in person, online, and so on. Sign up to a newsletter, etc. I've been told to say that, so please do it, and come back. Thank you.